Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope you are all well and had a wonderful Shabbos. It was a wonderful, wonderful offer from Shul. Mazel tov to the Rosen family. Look forward to sharing in your Simcha next Sunday. Chasna, and good morning to Clarice, Michael, Eitan, Caroline, and Michael again. And Peter, good morning to you. And we wish your wife a refuah shalema. So we were in the middle of the first chapter of Ethics of the Fathers. We're about to start a new Mishnah. This Mishnah was written, or it's a statement made by Hillel. So it follows on from the previous Mishnah, Mishnah Yud Gimel. Mishnah says as follows: Hu haya omer. He used to say it as follows: Nagad Shema, Avad Shema. A name made great is a name destroyed. Edilo Mosif Yasef. He who does not increase his knowledge, Edilo Yale Katla Chayev, loses it. And a person who doesn't study, he will die. Okay? Ede Ishtamesh Betaga Chalaf. And he who makes worldly use of the crown of Torah passes away. So this whole Mishnah is really discussing about the study of the Torah and Hillel said as follows: if a person is out for fame and fortune, good morning, Deborah. A person's out to make their name great. That's why they're into it. So they want to lecture, to write books, to have things published, and it's all in the name of their own self-aggrandizement. So then that is something that is not going to stay for posterity. They're going to lose it. The idea that we are able to share the eternal beauty of our faith is that hopefully we're doing it for the purest of motives, for altruistic reasons, so that we are able to add to people's lives, to enrich people's lives, not doing it for our self-interest, not some narcissists, as we discussed yesterday, interested in self-grandeur, but it's all about the betterment of other people and society. So this statement is very interesting. If you're not adding, you're losing, you're taking away, you're decreasing. Rav Lev used to give the analogy when we studied under him that if you imagine going to bring cross, I'm not proposing that we do, I'm just saying imagine that you do. It's not the place I would choose to spend a Sunday. But if you imagine Brain Cross and you've got an escalator, so very often if you stand on that escalator and the escalator's going down and kids run on the escalator wanting to go up, if you just stand still, an escalator that is descending, you will go down. It takes a while for the kids to realize that. But if you decide to keep climbing, then if you really exert yourself, then you can actually, despite the escalator going downwards, you could still reach the top. But you've got to make extra effort in order to go against the downward movement of the escalator. That is what this Mishnah is saying, that naturally we are going to find ourselves descending. If you're not going up, you're going down. In other words, we tend to think, and we delude ourselves, I think, into believing that, we're in a pretty comfy position. I've reached a certain stage in life, and I do certain aspects, or as much as I feel I can, in terms of my Judaism, and I'm static. I'm staying right here. I'm on stage 251, and that's where I've decided I'm comfortable. I've done enough. I've ticked the boxes I want to. I've cleared my conscience. That's it. Mishnah says quite the opposite, that inertia will kick in, and inevitably you will descend. If you're not going up, you're going down. We don't stay. This world is not static. The same way that the world moves, every individual moves. It may be subtle, like the movement of the earth. You may not detect it instantly, but when you go through a serious process of introspection and self-reflection, you will realize that there's ever so subtle changes in your lives. Things that you used to do a bit more, maybe you're cutting corners, you're doing a bit less, maybe you're being a bit less careful about the way you speak, the way you interact with people, the amount of attention that you give to people, the time that we spend, the investment that we spend on prayer, on study, on charity, and so on and so forth. And therefore, what we need to do is redouble our efforts just to stay on the level that we are. And if we want to move up a rung or two, then it takes greater effort on our part. And that is the reason why we find statements by our sages that Bamokum Shabalet Shiva Omdim, in the place where a penitent, a sincere, genuine penitent stands, Sadiq Gama Lo Yochalam, a righteous person who's been righteous the whole of his life, he cannot stand. He's incomparable. At that moment in time, the tzaddik may be treading water, he may be, maybe just maintaining his position, or he may be moving slightly up. But a Baal Teshuvah, somebody who's transformed their lives, they are moving up at a frenetic pace. They're moving, the trajectory is upwards. If you imagine from your geometry days, your curve, it's not where you are on that curve, it's where you are heading. What's your trajectory? Are you moving upwards, or are you moving in a downward spiral? And sometimes we notice that we bump into people years and decades later, and they look very different to ourselves. And something bothers us, it irks us. We feel that we have to pull them down to rationalize, to justify our position. Why is it that we haven't turned out quite the way that they have? And that's because we all start off, very often we start off, similar places, but it's where we are heading. So if we are able to, at any stage of life, to have a long, hard look at ourselves and say, you know what, I think in the coming months, year, I'm going to take on myself that one more thing, then all of a sudden we're on we're heading in a different direction. We're going to see tremendous growth as opposed to just standing still, or God forbid, moving in a downward direction. Okay, that's that part of the Mishnah. And that where a person, it says, if a person's not growing, if a person's not studying, then they die. They don't die in physical terms, but a part of them is dead. You find people that will explain to you that they're suffering a midlife crisis, burnout, struggling to find happiness. Why is that? Because they're not fulfilled, because they're not truly growing, because part of them feels that they are dead to the world, and that part of them is their soul, is their essence. So therefore, that is what Hillel is urging us to make that extra effort, to push ourselves that little bit more in terms of growth. And each of us knows the particular areas that we can, and perhaps we should, make changes to improve ourselves in some way. The next part, the final part of the Mishnah is V'dishtamesh v'taga chalaf. And a person who makes worldly use of the crown of Torah passes away. If a person uses it for personal gain, then they're not really in this world. They're deluding themselves. That's what this Mishnah is telling us. And therefore, it's incumbent, as much as we can, that everything is done with the altruistic, purest of intentions, and thereby we are able to touch our true selves, our inner core, and achieve true growth. Okay, we're going to pause there. We're up to the 14th Mishnah, which is perhaps the most famous. If I am not for myself, what am I? And if I am for someone else, but not for myself, then what am I? And so on and so forth. We'll continue with that tomorrow. Let's continue now, friends, on this beautiful, sunny Woodside Park Sunday with Psalm 23. The Lord is my want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forevermore. Memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishmois. Cheskel ben Penasaider, Rise about Baruch, Yisrael ben Tziriv, Miro Bas David Gosnin, Eliezer ben Penashoman, Label ben Shaul Greg, Shal Chuli Olamon, Megan Eden Taimenu Chosam, Lachim Elaracha, Mingos Rim, Seisa Kalafech, Olamim, Titrobus Chains Shmasam, Anna Nachlasam, Yanuchu Bishop Mishkava, Venamar, Amen, long life wishes to all. Lastly, for Shlema prayer. Mi Sheberach of Saint Romis of Yaakov Shadov, Shmoy Barach, Safelim. Bavo Shanu Mispalim, Bavo Rambis, Kazakosh Brochi, Malay Rachim, Malayhem, Lachmuna Fosam, Ish Lachnum Fusham, Shmaim, Lacharim, Maso, Shach Israel, Rufus, Nefesh, Fusaku, Hashavos Makaribin Amar, Amen, Fushlema, wishing everyone well. Please, God, we'll see you tomorrow. No more time, no more place. Take care. Have a great Sunday.